Good evening and welcome to the Wingate Museum of Art's virtual curator interview with Stephanie Sims, guest curator for Let Us March On. I'm Mary Kennedy, the director of the Wingate Museum of Art, and I'll be visiting with Stephanie this evening about all aspects of the exhibition. If you have a question you would like to ask, please type it in the questions section of this event, and we'll get to as many of them as we can later in the program. Thank you for being with us. Stephanie Sims is the museum director at the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff Museum and Cultural Center. She received her bachelor's degree in visual arts at the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff and her master's degree in public history from the University of Arkansas Little Rock. She's a member of Phi Alpha Theta National History Honor Society and Zeta Phi Beta sorority. Prior to her position at UAPB, she served as the personal archivist to former President Bill Clinton and worked closely with the National Archives and Records Administration and the Clinton Presidential Library. Sims was also the co-curator of Don't Touch My Crown at the Mosaic Templars Cultural Center in 2018. Stephanie is the curator of the new exhibition in the window gallery of the Wingate Museum of Art, now on view. Titled Let Us March On, the exhibition documents and contextualizes the Black Lives Matter movement in Arkansas. The exhibition includes a rich mix of documentary photographs, artwork, artifacts, interactives, and narrative text. We hope you will come by and see the exhibition. Stephanie, welcome to this evening's discussion.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't we begin by you telling us about the thesis of the exhibition and what you hope visitors will take away from the exhibition?
Well, the overall thesis was just to tell the narrative about the Black Lives Matter movement here in Arkansas. And how everything began is I actually wanted to give a backstory of the movement in itself and just talk about the impact it has on the African American community and here in Arkansas. So after the recent death of George Floyd, it kind of inspired a lot of people to do a lot of demonstration and protest. And so it just kind of, everyone just kind of just was in solidarity with a lot of the other protesters that were in Minnesota. So they, it just kind of just wanted to just tell that story and give the audience an opportunity to actually explain what was going on. And so that's kind of how all of that came about.
So the exhibition is organized into 8 sections covering different aspects of the movement. Describe those sections and why they're critical to telling the story of the Black Lives Matter movement in Arkansas.
Well, I like to go back and just kind of talk about where the name actually came from. So Let Us March On is actually a part of the lyrics to Lift Every Voice and Sing. And so when I saw a lot of the photographs of the protests, it just kind of inspired that title. And I actually decided to break up the first stanza throughout the exhibit. So each section actually represents a part of a verse or a line from the stanza. And so like the first one actually is about the impact of social media. So it starts off with the beginning of the lyrics with lift every voice and sing to earth and heaven ring. And so using that, it just kind of narrated the entire exhibit for us actually. So just being able to kind of find some type of way to cause it to relate to one another. Each section just kind of breaks down everything that happened, including the impact of social media, police, and the pandemic. So of course, during this time, while all of this is happening, we were in a global pandemic. And just to see kind of what protesters look like out there, especially when they were trying to follow a CDC guidelines, you know, everyone is wearing a mask, but at the same time, they know that we need to bring change some sort of way. And so later on in the exhibit, it actually goes on and there's a section about Black representation matters. And it just talks about how in the film and industry and the media, things of that nature, how important it is to see African Americans in the forefront because it's a representation of ourselves, and it actually gives us a optimism. You know, we look forward to seeing someone that's on the cover that looks just like us. And so towards the end, it actually, the last panel actually talks about our supporters and allies and what people can do to be a part of the change.
Excellent. So let's talk about Ebony Blevins' work, which figures prominently in the exhibition. Tell us a little bit about her work and why it's central to the show.
Oh my goodness. Ebony Blevins is, the best thing to say is she is a beast behind the lens. She does phenomenal work. And what I love about her pieces is that it made you feel like you were a part of the protest. Like, even if you weren't able to attend, just looking through her lens just make you feel like you were there. And also it told a story in itself. So she had a lot of photographs where you can kind of catch the emotion from everyone, and you can actually see how there was different ranges as far as with age and in race. And I thought that was phenomenal. It just felt like everyone was represented. It was just so diverse. And it's a big difference from what we're used to seeing. In most protests, we're used to seeing just one group of people. But with this particular time, you see different type of people that's joining together for the same cause. And I thought that was just phenomenal. So her work is just absolutely gorgeous, actually. And one of my favorite things that she did was she actually turned a lot of her photographs from color to black and white. And I just want to share a couple of those with you, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
And so here, as you can see, like, there's photographs that was at the Capitol here. And then also you have like this police officer here who's actually holding the Black Lives Matter and justice, freedom, and equality. So it just kind of gives you an idea how diverse this really was. And her photographs was just phenomenal. She even captured Jose Hernandez, who was one of the painters at the mural on 7th Street. And so she just kind of gave the opportunity to just showcase everything that was going on and just how important this is. And this is actually one of my favorite photographs, and actually doing an interview with her, this is one of her favorite photographs as well. And when she mentioned it in the interview, I was like, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's one of my favorite images that you did. And here you have all these people marching from the Capitol, and then you have Mayor Frank Scott there. And that was just, that photograph in itself is so profound. But she did excellent work. She really did. She really helped bring the show together.
Yeah, I love her work too. I'm a huge fan. So
Yeah.
she traveled. She didn't just take pictures in Little Rock. She traveled around the state to document, and she's made thousands of photographs.
Yes, she did. She actually participated in the she documented the protest in Zinc and Harrison, also in Conway. She was all over the place. And not only that, she even went outside of the state, and she was at the recent protest in Portland. So that goes to show that she is documenting what's going on, and she's getting this experience firsthand. So, and she's able to share that with everyone.
Yeah, yeah, amazing commitment. So the subject of this exhibition is really compelling and urgent, and it becomes even more so really every day.
Yes.
Your challenge was to take a wealth of existing information, organize it in a fashion that could educate people and make it accessible, but also that information was evolving constantly. So how did you manage that content, which was constantly evolving, and how is that reflected in the exhibition?
So one of the main things about it being a contemporary exhibit is that you have technology and you have so many other different resources where you can actually keep things up to date. And so sometimes with exhibits, that can become a little dated, and especially how it's written. So I actually wrote it as if like it was in a history book, and this is still ongoing as well. It's almost like you are a part or of the narrative in this history book. And so there were certain sections in the exhibit, like we have one area where there is a projector. And so when you stand in front of the projector, it actually projects all of the victims' names on your shirt. And so, just in the times we're in right now, when you have someone who can possibly actually die in the hands of law enforcement tomorrow, you can actually go in and add that person's name to that slide. I pray that that doesn't happen, but that was just one of the ways where we can always keep it updated and current. Also, there's another area where there's an interactive where we actually have a poll at the end of the exhibit. So there's a questionnaire, there's dots there, and everyone can answer the question, and then like every so often, maybe in a couple of weeks, we actually post a new question on the wall. So that way, when you have people that's gotten a chance to see it maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks later, there's a new question there and they can still be a part of the exhibition. So there is a lot of things that we did like that to take into consideration. So that way our audience is engaged as well.
Absolutely. So I'd like to talk about Brandon Maddow. I think he is an amazing artist and has a really strong image in the exhibition. How did you find him, and what can you tell us about his work?
Oh my goodness. So Brandon Maddox and I are really good friends, and it's amazing how things just kind of go in full circle. I actually met Brandon when he was a student at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, and I knew his father, and later, a couple years after he graduated from the university, I was told that he's a painter. And to me, I'm like, no, not the Brandon that I know. I'm not used to him being a painter. I'm like, okay. And so I actually went and looked on his Instagram page, and for years I've been following him, and I'm just like in awe of how talented he is. And so recently, he actually did acrylic and oil painting that actually showcased something that if you have participated in a protest, you have seen for yourself. And I thought it was amazing how he actually represented a lot of the people in the protest with this actual painting here. And this is actually entitled Everyday Fight. And here you see a gentleman, an African-American male, who's holding a sign, being black is not a crime. And then when you actually sit there and you look at it and you see him wearing a mask. And so that represented so many things in the exhibit, especially in the area when we talk about police brutality and in the middle of a pandemic. You see people carrying a sign with a mask on. And I just thought his depiction of that was just remarkable. And so when I saw it, I reached out to him and I said, Brandon, we have to have that. I have to have that in the piece. And he's a busy painter as well. So it was kind of hard to track him down. And so luckily with the advantage of social media, I had to send him a private message, say, Brandon, it's me. I need you to send that now. And so it actually worked out in our favor. And it's been such a central piece to the exhibit.
I'm so glad you did.
Yeah.
So during the exhibition, you worked with an exhibition planning team as well as students that are museum associates at the Wingate Museum, both in terms of planning for the exhibition as well as fabricating and installing it. Can you talk a little bit about how that impacted your curatorial work on this exhibition?
Oh my goodness, it was such a big group of people, but it didn't feel like it. It just felt like everyone was on the same accord and we were just all like in one big voice. And I thought that was so awesome, and it's rare. And what I did enjoy about the exhibit committee is that, well, the exhibit team, is that everyone just kind of piggybacked off each other. Like if someone gave an idea, someone else like, oh yeah, well how about we add this to it and all of that. And I'm just sitting there with my notebook and I'm just jotting everything down. And I'm letting everyone know I'm listening. I'm just trying to jot down all of your ideas. And you can tell everyone's advice and opinion was definitely represented in the exhibit. I believe, and I'm talking on their behalf, I do believe that everyone will feel that whatever that they mentioned or whatever advice that they did give, they were definitely appreciated and it was definitely considered. And I'm going to miss them because I had so much fun with them, and just to meet with them every day and I mean every week. And now we're not going to be able to do that. I'm kind of sad about it. And so even with the students, they were so eager to just learn how to do just the exhibit prep. I thought it was awesome. Like here's Sophia here, she's doing the movie posters, and I taught them how to do that. And I got Rachel here. It was just so much fun, and I was so proud of how easy they actually were to teach, and they made it look so easy, and they were naturals at putting a lot of things together. So if they are listening, everyone a part of the exhibition team, I'm going to miss you guys. I really enjoyed you, and I hope maybe in the future we get a chance to work together again.
Can you talk a little bit about the challenge of the space that you were working in, because it's only 38 inches deep, and I know you have some installation images, but you know, we're really fortunate to have that space at the Wingate Museum during the pandemic because it lets us present an exhibition that anyone can come see outdoors. They don't have to come inside. They can socially distance and they can get all of the content of the exhibition. But for you, there were some real challenges with trying to make that space work, and it's the first time we've used that space. So could you talk about that a little bit?
So what's interesting about that space is you from the exterior, it's like, oh, this is really nice. Like it has a lot of space in there, and you can do a lot of things in there. But as soon as you go inside, it's like, oh, I had didn't realize how narrow it is from the wall to the glass. So I definitely had to be a little innovative, especially with ladders and things of that nature, and just the number of people inside to assist with doing the installation. But overall, it actually wasn't too bad. I loved the space in itself, and considering in the climate that we're in right now, it is right on time, especially when it's the most museums, they open at a certain time and then they close at a certain time, but this is open 24/7. And so if anyone who's just getting off from work at 5 o'clock and they want to just get a chance to see it and take their time, they can do that. And so one of the things that I do love about that space is beautiful during the daytime, but in the evening it's absolutely breathtaking. And so just a few challenges may have been, I'm going to actually bring up Sarah this one. She was looking at the exhibit while I was doing installation, and I turned to her and I'm like, "Doesn't this look awesome?" And she's like, "I can't hear you," and she's just doing it. And I thank Sarah for that, but I didn't realize that she really couldn't hear me because of how thick the glass is. But that was probably the only challenge that I had, but we actually made it work and it turned out beautifully.
I would agree. So music is a powerful component of the movement, and the exhibition represents both historic as well as contemporary examples. I imagine different people seeing the exhibition and each having their own soundtrack for the show. Older people like me hearing civil rights songs, and younger people like you hearing hip hop. How would you like visitors to use music as part of this experience, and how can we get them to know each other's playlists better?
Well, I think one of the main things is that I actually incorporated some vinyl records in the exhibit piece. It has a huge range from um, Sam Cooke to Lil Baby. He has a song called The Bigger Picture. And then I also have a vinyl of Beyonce's for a Lemonade album. So everyone is fully aware of Formation. But and when you think about the song Change is Going to Come by Sam Cooke, I feel like that's a song that everybody recognizes. I feel like as soon as you hear it, you can hear the pain in his voice. You can hear that it's almost like a lyrical prayer. And I feel like everyone kind of gets that that whole idea behind the song. So it's almost like everyone could just kind of have a conversation about where they were when they were doing a protest, and then they heard this song, and this is what reminds them of this particular movement. And one of the main things is this exhibit, even though it's contemporary, it's still an ongoing fight that we've had for years. Like when you do think about the civil rights era, and you think about songs like with Sam Cooke or Otis Redding, and there's a connection there because no matter who the artist is, the message is still the same, and the movement is still there. Everyone is really believes that a change is going to come.
So Kwasi Harshaw's work also figures prominently in the show.
Yes.
I especially love Comb Out. Why'd you include this work, and how does it relate to the exhibition's thesis?
Oh my goodness, with Kwasi's work is phenomenal. I believe that we selected phenomenal pieces, but with Kwasi Harshaw's pieces, with Comb Out here, and the thing is this is my interpretation about this particular piece. And the thing is, this is this beautiful Black woman here, was in her natural state, wearing her natural hair. And then you have a Black man's hand above her crown with a Afro pick. And to me, this tells me that she gets to be herself unapologetically. And this man is above her that's supporting her. So he's offering to comb out her hair, and he could and Kwasi could have a totally different interpretation of it, but this is what it reads to me. Black representation matters, support matters, and especially with a time like now, and to be honest, especially with the most current verdict that we have with Breonna Taylor, a lot of African American women kind of feel like that they're unrepresented, that they're unsupported. So the fact that we have this piece that shows that you have this Black man with the comb above her head, he is offering support for this Black woman. And it just kind of just sticks out to me, and I just love his work.
So we have a question from the audience. I get emotional when I work with a body of work. What emotions did you and the students go through working with this exhibit, and what type of decisions did you have?
Okay, so I'm actually going to tell a secret. If an exhibit does not make me cry, I did not do my best. I have cried at least 3 times during this exhibit. One of them, and you guys are not gonna make me cry now. One of the main things that really stuck out to me is the seeing the students do the planning or assist with the planning, and then when we're actually putting it together, they literally stood back and go, oh my gosh, look at that. And just to see that reaction, it's almost like Christmas to me. You know, when you give your kid, when your kid finds out that they unwrap their favorite gift and they're like, oh my goodness, I got it. Just to see that reaction was awesome. And so when I actually do exhibits, it just is one of those things where I want to tell the story, and I'm hoping that everyone kind of gets the idea of where the message I'm trying to convey. So I had a moment where I was in the space and I was actually doing the fine touches, and there was a Caucasian male who was doing yard upkeep on campus. And so I thought he didn't pay me any attention. He just kind of walked right by me, and he stopped, and I can hear the leaf blower just standing in one place. So I decided to turn around, and I didn't realize he was doing it to get my attention. So when I turned around, he did this to me. And then I did this back to him, and he did this back to me and walked away. And I just started shedding tears because of that. So that lets me know that this is actually going beyond what I actually expected. And I'm just so grateful for that. So yeah, I'm just like whoever the commenter is, I'm just like you. I get really emotional with my work too. That also gives you confirmation that what you're doing is not work. It's definitely a passion, and you definitely are on the right path.
So overall, the exhibition is really compelling, and I don't know if you have any images of the installation for folks that aren't in Central Arkansas and haven't been able to see it, but you've done a great job of engaging the important content. Most curators don't come with the visual arts background that you do. How do you deploy that to amplify your curatorial thesis?
Oh my goodness. So the best thing about shout out to UAPB. The best thing about that is that when I was in undergrad, I was very nosy. I'm going to say ambitious. I was ambitious to just kind of learn a new trade or just kind of perfect my craft. And so I would do a lot of exhibit installation with my professors and a lot of my classmates. And that just kind of grew into something that I just really realized this was my lane. And so being able to do the graphic design work and to do the layout and just kind of do the measurements of everything and do the visuals, that's the fun part for me. So having that background definitely got me to where I am now. Just doing things like mounting the photographs and turning them into poster boards. And so I'm just going to share just a couple of those photos with you guys. So like here, so like this is during installation. And so you can see me over there with the big ladder. And that's my good friend Alex there. He's actually doing all of the vinyl work for me. And so like here is actually some of the exhibit where we have like the panels there, in which I was talking about earlier about how Lift Every Voice is Seen is actually represented in each section. That just kind of the colors and all of that just kind of stands out. And I just think it's so beautiful. And then so here is one of the pieces by Quasi, and this one here is actually by Ebony. And at night, this is what I was telling you guys, like it's really beautiful during the day, but it is breathtaking in the evening. And so here you just have some of the imagery over there. And then this is the vinyl I was telling you guys about, and some of the artwork that's on the wall here is by Lonnie Rainey right here. And oh my goodness, it's just awesome. And just this area with the visual here, this is actually the Black Representation Matters area. And this is actually kind of feeding off of what two members of our committee, Sophia and Jasmine, they actually did a great job with their film thesis. And so I wanted to show them like how we can represent their thesis in the exhibit as well. And so it's just how it all came together I'm just really glad that it actually worked out.
It really looks great. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, Perry and Hurd's work is also quite striking. He did those massive murals at Mosaic Templars Cultural Center recently, and he's really prominent figure in the Central Arkansas art scene. What would you like to say about his work?
His work, oh my goodness, the bold colors and oh, they are breathtaking. I have to show that piece as well. It's just, oh my goodness, it's so beautiful. And what I love about his work, this one is he actually entitled Shine, Reach for the Light. And when you look at it, you can see that this figure is looking up to the sky. And you can see the ray of sun above his head, and then he have all of these powerful colors in there. Nothing is muted whatsoever. And then on top of that, you have all of these different patterns that's in the shirt area, that represents a lot of strength, and just, oh my goodness, just um, oh my goodness, his work just kind of leaves me speechless. I really love his work, and how he actually considered contributing this piece was just phenomenal as well. But his work, if you ever gotten a chance to go by Mosaic Temple, you can see it on the facade there. A lot of his paintings and whatnot, and so just to see kind of like just a part of representation as well, and just to see it in another viewpoint, I think is awesome. I love his work.
Could you also talk a little bit about the Finister piece that you've included?
Oh yeah. So Rashawn Pennister is actually a really good friend of mine as well. Great painter and instructor. He actually, what's interesting is that I reached out to him and I said, if you have any artwork, please let me know. And he's like, oh yeah, absolutely. I got you, Steph. I got you. And so here's his piece here. And what I like about his work is that he doesn't actually paint on your typical canvas. This is actually it's on paper, but they're playing cards. Like if you can actually look, especially over here in this area, you can see the spades there. And he paints with acrylic on top of the cards. And also, what I love about his work is it kind of reminds me of Kehinde Wiley's piece. And if you are not familiar with Kehinde Wiley, he's actually the portrait painter for the Barack Obama painting that everyone saw with him sitting in the seat with the bush around him. That's Kehinde Wiley piece. And one of Kehinde Wiley's signatures is the floral ornaments in the background, and it represents beauty and fertility. And so I can see what Pennister is also inspired by that as well in his work. And with this particular piece, you can tell that the woman has her natural hair, just like with Quasi's work, but she's wearing this black dress and she's wearing pearls, so that lets you know she represents wealth and beauty and fertility.
Okay, so here's another question. So what's something you learned, either both about curation or about the Black Lives Matter movement in developing this exhibition?
That's a great question. Curatorial work, I'm gonna tell on myself. And Mary, I hope you don't get mad at me a couple months from now when you take the exhibit down. One of the main things is with the space, which I probably should have mentioned earlier, is that it's in the window gallery, so it has direct sunlight. It has high exposure to sunlight. So you have to be careful what you actually use in the show, and things that can be mass produced is definitely an advantage. So the fact that we had a lot of the t-shirts and a lot of the pins. So this was actually something different. This is my first exhibit where something is in direct sunlight. So that was a challenge. And but luckily, because of it being a contemporary topic, there is a lot of merchandise out there. So there's a lot of product. Like one of my favorites is Machello Eames. He has the t-shirt line that's actually entitled "I Love You Black Man" and "I Love You Black Woman," and I actually included that in the piece. And so in case if it does get faded out in the sunlight, we can always replace that. It's not it's something that can be replaced. And so as far as with the Black Lives Matter movement, I'm gonna say I'm very familiar with it already. I believe one thing I may have learned about it is there's different chapters all over that represent Black Lives Matter, and we actually have a chapter here in Little Rock. I did not know that until I actually did the research. And also, I believe maybe just kind of like how everything began. Like I was familiar with how it actually started off as one of the founders did a tweet that said that Black Lives Matter, and so then after that, everyone just kept retweeting her tweet, and so it actually became into an organization. It was a movement, then it became an organization. An organization actually represents people of color, well, African Americans and whatnot. So I I believe that's pretty much what I've learned, and I'm still learning a lot of different things, especially when I have people who realize that I curated the exhibit, so I get text messages or I get emails and things of that nature. So I'm actually still learning a lot about the overall topic. I hope I answered the question okay.
That's great. That's great. So in the exhibition, you have a section about Black student life at Hendrix. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So the main thing is with the exhibit, especially with it being housed on Hendrix campus, um, it's where it's a must to tell this story. It is a must to talk about the Black experience at Hendrix, especially with the school being predominantly white. You have to just kind of put a platform out there for people who are not a person of color so they can actually understand the experience. So I actually learned a lot about doing the research. I was able to do some oral histories with some great alum of the university. And there is that's actually the longest panel text in the entire exhibit besides the intro panel. That's actually the most extensive area. And so I'm just really glad I was able to tell that story. There is a lot of students who are African American who went through a lot while they were on campus, and I really feel like that they were represented. I hope they know that they matter. And my message to you, if they are listening and they are watching, you did a great job. I'm so proud of you. I'm glad you continued on with your mission, and I pray nothing but blessings to you.
Awesome. Let's see. Sony asked this question. Someone is asking about, will the show be traveling to other venues after it leaves the Wingate Museum of Art? And it's not scheduled to do that, but I will let you know that we are working on an online version of the exhibition, and Stephanie just completed the voiceover for the online version of the exhibition, which should be available in the coming weeks. So we would just ask you to check out the Wingate Museum of Art website, wingatemuseum.org, and you'll be able to see the online version there. Let me ask you another question. So you see an exhibition like this, there really is a feeling that there is a call to action. You know, you can't go through and look at this exhibition and read the text and see the images and not feel the power of that exhibition. So what would your personal call to action be to people after they see the exhibition?
Make sure that you actually get involved. The change starts with you, like it starts within yourself. Like even if it's not even about that in particular, like if things are not going the way you want to in life, this change starts with you. So if you want to be a part of this change and progress, it has to start with you, and you have to get other people on board with you. So after you see this exhibit and you do become empowered and you feel a sense of enthusiasm, use that, continue going, and don't just do it because it's a trend. Actually do it because this is what you really want to do, because it's a good thing. So my call to action to everyone is be nicer to each other. Tomorrow is not promised, and and life tends to put you in a situation where things can become full circle. And so one of the things that sticks out to me is actually something that a past exhibit I did last year. Um, there was a lady there, and she was a part of the protest in the 60s. And she was a child. She was 13 years old, and she was actually arrested. And one of the guards there treated her so bad while she was there. And then, but she remembered this woman. And so, about 30 years later, this child turns into an adult, and she becomes a nurse. And one of her patients was that police guard. And so this was a great opportunity for her to get revenge. And she did not do that. She just told her, like, hey, I was the little girl that was in that cell. And the lady just immediately said, I'm sorry. So you just never know how life can come in full circle. Please be kind. Take into consideration how you treat someone if somebody treated you that way, or someone that you love. So always keep that in mind. Be a part of the change. It starts with you.
So Stephanie, what have I not asked you about that you'd like to share?
I really don't know. Just to be honest, I really don't know. I think you asked a lot of great questions, and they're very thought provoking. I really can't think of anything at the moment, but thank you for asking.
Okay. Well, I want to let folks know that there is a lot of programming that we're doing in conjunction with this exhibition. There will be a podcast going live next week with an interview with Stephanie that'll be available tomorrow night. There is a film that will be available, Dreamland. We have films scheduled through November. We have other panels scheduled, panels including the Black COVID experience, a community panel, a panel with muralists and photographers. So there are a lot more programs to come in conjunction with the exhibition that Stephanie has provided us. And I just want to say thank you so much, Stephanie, for everything that you made happen. We are so lucky to have that exhibition at Hendricks. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, all right. Thank you everyone for tuning in.